From UBN Studios, you're listening to Unsugarcoated with Aalia, bringing you interviews with public figures and inspirational people speaking on self-improvement with empowering themes. And I'm your host, Aalia Lanius. Hello, and welcome back to this incredible journey that we've had on this season thus far. And, first of all, Unsugarcoated with Aalia has always said it all. We are unsugarcoated in our approach to take on these conversations, to humanize one another. Our theme for this specially curated season has been From Los Angeles to Gaza, a plea for humanity. And that is from my heart. And each one of these episodes have been, as we've said, emotional, difficult at times to have, but so critically important. And, I am going to say something that somebody might have noticed up until this point, if you've been paying attention. As much as we have to amplify the voices, the one thing I haven't done is been able to have the opportunity to have a Palestinian on the show. But also there's a strategy in that for myself. It's too easy for you to accuse me, not you specifically, but someone out there particularly, may accuse me of being biased. It's easier, I can hear the argument in my head of, well, of course they're going to be on the Palestinian side because they're Palestinian. But we challenge that by bringing people from all over the world, Belgium, UK, United States, people that had no knowledge even before, but have become involved or have through their lifetime had an understanding of these situations. And so in that, there's a reason for that. That does not mean I don't want to amplify the voices of Palestinians. I do that through my social media. I do that through the other ways. But right here, what this season was about is letting you know that there are people around the world that you may identify with that have cared and do care. And as somebody was pointing out to me just a moment ago, hopefully that will prompt you to reconsider why you should care, why this is a matter that is not just about being Palestinian, it's about being a human being. So, this is part of reclaiming the narrative for the Palestinian community, is letting everybody know that, you have to just simply be a person on the side of humanity to be in this conversation. Now, as this crisis escalates, which it does, even at the time of this recording, thousands more continue to die daily. It is, it's emotional. It is emotional, and it's hard to keep my emotions in check at times. I will be honest with you, even on the way to the studio today, I had to hold myself back from crying, and I had to tell myself, be strong for them, Aalia. Be strong for them. If they're being strong, you damn sure better be strong for them. So, people with ties to the Palestinian community, no doubt, from Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, these are people that also have an increase in concern and anxiety. People want to believe that those communities do not care. That's a lie. People want to say that, why haven't they been helping them? It's a lie. Somebody today told me they haven't been taking in refugees. This is a lie. First of all, my ex-husband was born in Egypt as a Palestinian refugee. My former sister-in-law and brother-in-laws were born in the UAE as refugees. So to simply believe the lies so that you can sleep better at night or justify a genocide that is taking place, we're not doing that here. We're not doing that here. In 2006, my ex-husband, my sister-in-law, got married in Beirut, and I only stayed behind because my son was very colicky, and I didn't want to subject him to this long trip, or myself. Maybe I was being selfish. But my ex-husband went there. There was a beautiful week of celebrations. Just imagine having the time of your life, and then you go to the airport, and suddenly bombs start dropping. You have no idea why. You aren't part of a conflict. You aren't part of Hezbollah. But in July of 2006, that is what happened. Hezbollah kidnapped 2 soldiers at the Israeli border and unleashed a week of terror and indiscriminate bombing on the people of Lebanon. So we are part of this conversation. We are part of this experience. I obtained the news footage from that station, from KTVU in the Bay Area, because they were one of the people that started to pay attention when I said, hey, by the way, there's American citizens over there. We want to come home. And I even in watching it and showing my kids that it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm grateful today to bring to you an amazing Lebanese-American author. She's going to talk about her story. She's going to talk about her experiences, an amazing book, because like her as a writer, I've tried to help create that social impact through storytelling, that humanization of one another, bridging communities. That's what a lot of us want to do with our stories. And I'm honored that she would come on today and share her story with us. So let's get to it. Dana Dargos is a Lebanese-American luminary who ignited her passion for storytelling in the Bay Area during her kindergarten years. With a degree in English literature from UC Berkeley, Dana co-authored the acclaimed debut novel Einstein in the Attic, amassing an impressive 9 awards, including the prestigious Nautilus, Cygnus, and Independent Press honors, and more, and it is simply a testament to her storytelling prowess. Beyond her professional life, Dana's diverse interests range from activism to fashion, showcase her well-rounded and creative spirit that fuels her work. Join us as we delve into the world of Dana Dargos and her extraordinary journey as an author and content creator. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a hand. Hi, Dana. How are you?
Hi, Alia. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very happy to be here.
I am honored, beyond words, not only because we, share love of Lebanon, we also grew up in the Bay Area. So we have a lot of familiarities and similarities. I'm excited for our audience to learn more about you. So in that, tell us a little bit about your life, where you grew up, your family structure, and how that kind of shaped your early understanding of your culture as an Arab American, but also as a California girl.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, born and raised. So, I definitely grew up with a lot of American influence, but not too much. So, with my parents, they really tried to instill a lot of cultural values into me, which they did. Because even for me, today I consider myself to be a bit more Lebanese than American in regards to cultural values, mentality, etc. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a bit of open-mindedness that I do have. However, I feel like you can equally attribute that to Lebanese culture where it's constantly evolving as well. So when
Right.
someone asks me, well, where did you get that open-mindedness from? I tell them a bit of Americanism and a bit of Lebanese as well, which a lot of people don't really know about. A lot of people assume that, okay, well, since Lebanese people are from Lebanon and the Middle East, they think, oh, we're super conservative, that we're all covered up, that we don't believe in freedom and women's rights and etc. And that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Right.
To my passion as a writer, I've loved writing ever since I was in kindergarten. I'd always doodle little pictures in crayon and create some kind of stories with that. But, it's been always very important for me to have some kind of impact on my readers, to illustrate some kind of message through my writing and help my readers with that message, inspire them through that message, give them a new perspective to think about, um, get them to really think about the world and the issues they see around themselves in their own little bubble and also outside of that bubble as well.
I can appreciate that. And it's funny, just historically, for anybody who is part of this conversation, because I have to have it. In if you look at pictures of Lebanon in the early 1900s, people would be shocked to learn that there were trolley cars. In fact, San
Mm,
Francisco has such a similarity of the early 1900s in Beirut, the port. You had women walking down the street with parasails,
yep.
because obviously there was a French influence. 1948 was when they gained independence from France. And in fact, in the 70s, Lebanon was that Paris of the Middle East, right? Like,
Yes.
everyone would go party in Lebanon. American culture, like many don't even know it's a Christian country. They just presume you're in the Middle East, must be a bunch of Muslims, and that's it. There's camels. Somebody once asked, did you have camels in Lebanon? I was like, no. Right.
I'm just like, nope, we got cars just like you guys.
Yeah.
And plus they don't even know just how diverse it is. I always tell them there's multiple religious groups in there. There's multiple mentalities in there as well, multiple levels of liberalism and conservatism. So that's definitely an interesting melting pot that we have.
So Einstein in the attic. I am, I want for you in your words, because I never like to summarize. I'm a writer, so whenever, it comes to my book, I want to summarize it. I want to give it that heart. Tell us what inspired this collaboration and tell us what the story is about.
So this started back in 2015. I was visiting Lebanon in the summer, seeing mostly my family there, of course. And, I was friends with my uncle, my wife's husband. And every single day we'd have different conversations about different subjects, politics, TV, film, books, novels, uh, daily events, etc. So we would just talk about everything, We were really good friends, and we were both big analytical and critical thinkers as well. So for this subject, it came up actually when there was a lot of events going on in 2015, at least a lot at the time. And a conversation came up with Said, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about like the existence of God? Have you ever been curious about it's the signs of an intelligent designer?" And I agreed with him. I definitely went through that phase in high school. So I feel like other people, when they're surrounded by so much negative events and so much negativity, they definitely most likely have questioned the existence of God at one point or another, but have been too worried to express it, especially in the Middle Eastern culture where religion's a bit more conservative, at least in that area. Well, of course, it depends on who you're speaking to. We had a what if scenario, like, oh, well, what if you could talk to the most intelligent minds of the universe? How do you think they respond? We came up with Einstein as an example. And from there, it kind of kept building up. We said, what if we added different philosophers from different backgrounds? So eventually it got to the idea of what if an individual curious about the world were to summon philosophers using a time machine? How would they react? Would they get the answers they wanted, etc.? And then, of course, that catapulted into a bigger eight-sequence storyline that we worked on for quite a while. The book came out in 2022 of January, so it took us a couple of years to do all of that research, to write across two continents, literally through WhatsApp and Microsoft Word and whatnot. We're really thrilled about it. I mean, it's earned 10 awards and counting so far, so that's definitely something.
As an author, and you release a book, and everyone's like always like New York Times bestseller list, and like got to make these lists, which we know in the industry that you can fake that funk, right? You can just do things to manipulate that. But with awards,
Definitely.
it's a bit different. You are really being recognized by your peers. And similar to you, when you win those awards, there's a certain validation that you feel because you
Definitely.
now appreciate that your community is recognizing it. Even as you're talking about it, made me think of there's an app right now called Historia, and so it has Einstein in there, has like Mozart, or certain of these historical figures that you can ask a question to, and based on the AI, give you a response.
Oh, wow.
And I love this idea of the time machine and bringing these great minds and what they say, and especially in a moment like now. People always say, what would Jesus say? Well, in this case, I'm going to say, what do you think Einstein would say?
Well, I want to backtrack a bit, first of all, because a lot of readers have asked me, well, if you're exploring faith and the existence of a God in a book, why didn't you decide to zap, religious figures in from the past into the present and have a debate with the main character? And my reason for that is because Syed and I wanted to explore the existence of an intelligent designer through a completely neutral lens of logic and reasoning as opposed to religious figures. Because then, even if the religious figure to argue or present some kind of evidence or something, it would mostly be based upon faith, with which a lot of people would obviously not be fully into, or would argue that it isn't completely reliable. But anyways, back to your question.
No, but thanks for
I
that. I
think
like
that
that. That's fair. I like that you added that.
sure.
That's fair.
Yeah. Einstein would be horrified by today's situation. And that's examined a bit in the book, when they first zap him and they try to get him to stay and help them with answering questions about the world. The main characters, they show him how the world is right now with war and famine and poverty in other countries, and unfortunately, a lot of injustices. Even in his real life, I remember when I was doing research on him, towards the end of his life, he was horrified with what people did with his formula. So I kind of grabbed that real life moment, or not moment, I guess real life information, and put it into the book as well, because I feel like that would be an important point to explore how Einstein would be horrified by what's going on, how he wants to see if an intelligent designer exists, how could that God make it better, would hope be intertwined with it as well, etc.
Even in Oppenheimer, they showcased that. And he did consider human life. And he lived a very
Yeah.
simple life. I was actually just in Switzerland earlier
Yes.
this year, and I got to go
Oh,
by the
nice.
house that he lived in and walk the streets that he walked. And, it was
Wow.
a bit fascinating because, as a history lover like yourself, I imagine I just said, wow, okay, this is what he was living and this is what he sought, just peace and tranquility. So you've done this book and, I'm excited for the awards. I can imagine that it's very
Thank you.
relevant right now. Um, you've also done, NGO work. You are a
Mhm.
humanitarian at heart, which has created approximately 1,000 jobs for Lebanese
Mm.
people. Share with us
Mhm.
that journey on how something like that is accomplished. And, I mean, because when we do look at this is not just exclusive to Palestine, but any area of
Of
the
course.
world where we want to create empowerment for people. This is one way. So, what was that journey like for you, and how did you end up doing that?
Well, it actually started, I think, back in 2019 when the revolution in Lebanon was going on. That was really dear to my heart. And I saw all of the kinds of injustices that were going on, from corruption to poverty to famine to a lack of medical supplies to a lack of water and electricity, etc. Basic humanitarian needs were missing. And for me, I knew I had to do something about it, because in some situations people need outside help because the people inside the country that are supposed to protect them and that are supposed to stand for them aren't standing at all. Secondly, that led to a protest I actually hosted twice in San Francisco, which were great as well. And then from there, I just kept looking up and seeking out other opportunities to help. So I remember I forgot if I came across Jobs of Lebanon, to be honest, or if someone contacted me about the initiative they're trying to do, where they would post jobs that they needed help with, that they needed to fulfill online, and they would hire them for those jobs because, it has a terrible job economy over there. No one can really work. No one can really find work, even if they wanted to. So Jobs for Lebanon was a great initiative to hire Lebanese people or folk in Lebanon to pay them justly. That helped them pay, or I guess help pay for themselves, their educations, their families. And I'm naming all of this stuff because so many people came from different backgrounds and different stories. That definitely helped a lot of people and is still continuing to do so. It's still active. Even for me, if I need uh, the other day, or not the other day, a few weeks ago, I needed someone to help me with some admin work and some assistant work. And I hired someone off of there because I figured if I'm going to pay someone, I might as well help someone with that money where it will be very highly valued, especially since, things in Lebanon prices are what to American dollars are lower. So, for example, from our perspective, prices over there are very cheap. But over there, where they're paid essentially nothing, things are very expensive. So therefore, if you pay them in dollars, it'll help them sustain um, a lifestyle they can even live.
I love that. I remember we did a report on even when cryptocurrency started to come out because, I know Egypt
Mm.
was banning it because, it was giving, again, empowerment to certain individuals. And you're right. You do have as intelligent and qualified people ready to do the work, ready for the
Mm.
opportunity. It's just when you are isolated in certain areas of the world, how else are people going to find you or
Mm.
to get to you? So,
Yeah, and
you know,
it's so awful too because I mean you see so many talented individuals, so many ambitious minds, so many empowered individuals as well who want to make a difference in the world, who want to advance their careers, who want to actively they illustrate their passion for what they want to work in, but they just don't have any opportunities. So it's sad because you see people struggling to live for one, and then also people just not being able to contribute like they know they can contribute to the world.
So in your time in Lebanon, I am going to kind of shift, there is
Sure.
first of all, there are a lot of refugee camps in Lebanon
Mm,
for the Palestinian community. They've been there for decades.
hmm
And at times, and this is something that I will acknowledge, Lebanon has its own history. We've had our own
mm,
conflicts, and the result of taking in so many refugees after the original Nakba, were some of the issues that led to this 20-year civil war.
mm,
Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a Christian country, and there were issues when there was a fear. Lebanese people are people, and at times that unjustified fear that somebody's presence will somehow alter your existence or threaten your existence does occur. That has definitely happened in certain parts of the Arab world. I would not be doing our conversations justice if I did not acknowledge that. And we do have
mm.
our stains on history. We have the Sabra and Shatila massacres. We have the way that Palestinian refugee camps are kind of isolated and marginalized. Did you ever have an opportunity to see that for yourself or even interact with the Palestinian community in Lebanon?
I did volunteer with I'm trying to remember the name, but it was a charity organization that basically they did help individuals of different backgrounds, and some were Palestinians. Um, Basically, they helped generate charity funds for people who were living in the streets, essentially, and their conditions were beyond awful, beyond sad. And this was back in, I want to say, 2020, maybe.
Right.
So this was when things weren't even as bad as now. But I remember people would be living in the alleys behind curtains because they just couldn't afford homes. Some people even had disabilities, and others didn't care about them. But that organization did care and did try to generate funds with them. And the person I was with on that day, she'd run a lot of errands for them. She'd use the funds generated by that charity to purchase medicine for them, and this medicine, it was important for the conditions that they had. So
Right.
a lot of their conditions were terminal if they did not take that medicine. So that was a huge deal as well. They would also help raise money to put their children in school because without that, their kids wouldn't be able to go to school. I remember I even walked through the old town of Saida
Mm.
in the market area, and one of the people who we were helping lived there, and it was like 10 people living in one room, maybe in one of the apartments. And it was just awful. The husband, I remember, of one family, he worked as a baker or at a furnace or something like that. And all that he could do was just bake bread for people and sell that. But since it was around, I think, the currency crisis, he just couldn't generate that much.
Yeah.
So how is he going to feed his kids? How is he going to put them in school? How is he going to guarantee a future for them? So there were a lot of awful poverty stories that I got to witness in person. Poverty is definitely existent here, and it's very sad when you see it, but different than families being submerged in poverty because they just couldn't find any jobs at all. Um, like over here, you could work in retail if you had to. You could work in the food industry, basically some kind of minimum wage job to at least get you on your feet. Over there, there is almost no chance of that at all, unfortunately.
We've seen, or we're aware that refugee camps are themselves getting bombed, which is a tent.
Yes.
It's tent cities that have nothing to protect them, nothing to shield. I mean, and to be quite frank, I don't know if that's worse. What's worse, getting hit and in a tent or being suffocated and crushed to death in a building? I'm sure either one of them are not
Yeah.
pleasant experiences, right? And to your point, like I think that over there, there's in places when it comes to the Palestinian community, they're just simply discriminated against because they're Palestinian.
I just wanted to say also, the discrimination that comes into play. It makes it harder for people to get jobs. They don't have the same rights as other citizens may have, for example. So that definitely plays into their challenges, which is unfortunate, but that's the truth.
This is one thing a lot of people want to argue, that Palestinians just want death to all Jews, or, and I'm being, I think, because this is what I hear. This is what people will tell us on social media. I know I'm not
Yes,
the only one,
yes.
right? They want to see us all dead. Man, they're just trying to put food on their table. They're just trying to give their kids the life that you and I want for our families, that we have the experience
Exactly.
for.
They're just trying to survive at this point.
Yes.
It's not even about trying to maintain some kind of fancy lifestyle. It's literally about just trying to survive as a human being.
So now we're at a moment in time that I think is quite historic. I don't know about you. I mean,
Definitely.
my hope is that this actually comes to a global realization that what has been happening to the Palestinian community has to stop. It's not been fair. It's not a fair fight. It's not a fair conversation. So in this moment in time, you're this young, beautiful, heartfelt author. You're having all the
Thank you.
success, and yet you choose in this moment to do what I think we're doing, is standing on the right side of history. You're using your platform to call out what is clear in front of us.
When I first started posting about things about Palestine, I knew that a lot of people weren't going to like it. I'm like, this isn't about, liking a hobby that you don't like. It's not about liking some kind of food or TV show that you don't like. This is about, a genocide going on, to be honest. So I wouldn't take no for an answer, and I knew I had to post something about it. And I mean, a post can only do so much, but it's definitely better than nothing, especially when you have a platform. You have a responsibility to stand up for what is right, because one, that is your obligation as a human being, and two, in my heart, if I don't do that, I don't feel like I deserve a platform. I don't feel like I would deserve success as an author. I feel like if I were to just ignore the atrocities going on and just live about my life, I feel like one, I'd be in denial. I would be delusional. I would be very soulless and careless. And I also don't think I could even be I could even bring myself to success or to write anything. I would feel very awful about wanting to live a normal life and wanting to be in my own bubble, which I've experienced other people wanting to do, and not wanting to stand up about just something awful happening to other human beings. It isn't about um, race or Palestinian or Lebanese or whatever. It's literally just caring about thousands. It's literally about just caring about people dying. That's it. I've gotten so many messages from a lot of racists, a lot of Islamophobes, etc., where they will say that, oh, you're anti Semitic, oh, you're fighting for the wrong side, oh, and just really awful, awful messages about saying, oh, I hope they all die or something like that. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you people? You're not, at this point, how can you even call yourself a person to wish something like that upon another human being? It is insane. And the thing is that even when you try to educate others about why you believe one side or the other, or in the middle, or basically whatever you believe in, um, a lot of people will deny whatever proof you have, whatever statement you have to give them. They will even deny you debunking fake news as well.
It wouldn't matter. I mean, yes, in this case, we feel a kinship with the Palestinians, also because we are educated. I mean, in this day and time, it's 2023. We know what apartheid looks like. We know what racism
Definitely.
is. We know what a genocide is. Like, we know what the Holocaust was. And, it is it's very difficult when you're trying to educate people, and even like you said, and they'll even deny your own lived experience, like, and those are the people that I just stop, because I'm not going to waste my energy. I know you probably, like, it's,
Exactly. I
you're
learned that,
not
yes.
worth I'm not here to convince you. If you want to have a conversation, if you want to be educated, great. But if you're just going to continue being part of the problem and not the solution, right? It's just not, it's not, at some point we're going to depart. We're just going to agree to disagree. What do you really feel your call to action for others?
Really, to spread awareness about how the Palestinians are being mistreated, and for them to have the right to peace already, because it is insane how they've been dealing with this for 75 years and counting, and no one has paid attention until now, which is a small I guess, pro, you know.
Right.
I guess one thing that brings a smile on your face is seeing the thousands of protests going on in cities all around the world that showed that, you know, the power of social media definitely has an income where you can educate people and spread awareness. And a lot of people have changed attitudes about Arabs and Muslims. That is definitely something that's a bit inspirational and that gives hope as well. And I hope other people will notice that as well.
Yeah, and even just the education of whether people understand these are not, like not all Palestinians are Muslims, or not all, like
Definitely.
same thing we go through that with when you talk about the Lebanese culture. You know, I will say I appreciate everything that you've said. What do you feel, for your personal evolution as, activist, author, humanitarian? What's next for you?
Um, well, let's see. I'm winding down marketing for Einstein the Attic. And then after that, I really hope I can start some kind of new work. And I mean, I've already been doing a lot of humanitarian work, but it still isn't enough for me. You know, I feel like I don't have something concrete in mind, but I definitely hope to work as a humanitarian, as an activist, and something even bigger, something that has even more impact than what I currently have now, as much as I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's just the beginning for you. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm already trying to figure out what are these other stories I can tell. I've already done one, but like, what are the other
Absolutely.
stories that we can tell that continue to humanize one another?
When I chose to stand up for what was right, I was aware that I would lose a lot of followers and whatnot. And obviously, there was a lot of racists saying, well, you're losing a follower, don't follow this person. And I got bad reviews on my book and hate crime comments on my book on Amazon because of people like that. But you know, you have to have hope in standing up for the right thing. That will be all worth it in the end. That definitely takes faith. Anyways, I don't want those people to kind of to read my books at all. Anyways, you know, for standing up for what was right, it kind of relates because my most I think one of the first books that really influenced me was Jane Eyre.
Mm.
And that was one of my all time favorite books because you see this girl, she goes through so much oppressive situations and she struggles with finding happiness and she can never be happy because she's just dealing with so many unfair situations where all of the odds are against her and she can finally attain happiness if she goes against herself and her own beliefs and not standing up for what was right in her own opinion. Then yeah, go ahead, she could have attained her goal. But I think that it took a lot of strength for that character to be able to stand up against all of that just to do the right thing. You know, she had to have some sort of faith that doing the right thing will pay off in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she had to throw away that that initial attainment of happiness, which is a big thing to do. I mean, imagine you've been oppressed for all your life, you've suffered so much, you finally just want to be happy, and then when you finally are, that happiness is snatched away from you, or you willingly have to give it up. I feel like that's a huge sacrifice.
I can appreciate that tremendously. Where can people follow you, support you? Oh, wait, I was going to say something really quick on that bad reviews tip. This is for anybody who wants to go put a bad review on anything, just in case you didn't know. That actually helps us in the algorithm because, technically, and this is true, this is something I know as a publisher. If you get all good reviews, technically the algorithm thinks you are faking it, the funk. You are maybe
Mm,
paying people, or you're like getting that's
interesting.
curated. But when you put a bad comment, it actually makes your books go higher in the ranking because they feel that's more authentic. So guess what, guys and girls out there that think you're going to beat us, there's a saying, he who laughs first laughs last. So, I just want to remind you that actually helps you. They're not hurting you as much as they think they are. So, but where can people get your book? Where can they support you? Where can they stay connected and follow your work?
Yeah, my book is available on multiple online sites, mainly Amazon. It is also available through ebook on Google Book, Apple Book, Barnes and Nobles, and so many other sites. I'm also available on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
I want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, everything that you're doing. And I wish you, Nothing but the best of luck and fortune and, repayment from the universe for all
Thank you
that
so
you are
much.
doing. So thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much. It's a huge pleasure to be here, so thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Dana.
take care.
And for everyone at home, um, you know, I have a saying that was in my last novel. It goes like this. It's my belief that until we learn to care for each other as a species, as human beings first, wars will be waged that needn't be. Children will die that shouldn't, and people will suffer that never had to in the first place. I know that in my life and work, I want to change that. I want to die as a reflection of humanity, compassion, and empathy. That doesn't mean that there are not negative forces that we have to go against in this world in order to achieve that, but we have to start somewhere. And people often say they want peace, but what we've also seen recently is that their actions contradict that. If you can be a pro-lifer, then you should feel devastated at what we are seeing. If you can be a preacher and talk to me about faith and still stand there and disregard what's happening, then, I would put to you the 10 Commandments tell us not to kill, not to steal, not to covet, meaning wanting something that's not yours. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So don't tell misinformation about the facts. And thou shalt not have any other gods but me. And why do I say that? Because if you don't think wanting power and money are gods, you're seriously misguided. This is how you stand with the righteous. This is basic, ladies and gentlemen. And how about my favorite? It's not a 10 commandment, but it is in that book of faith. And I also consider it just a golden rule of life. Do unto others as you want done unto yourself. In America, I come from a culture that has justified the annihilation of Native Americans and a history of 400 years of why it was okay to enslave another person. So it doesn't surprise me when America votes to not put a cease war on what we see right now. This has been an emotional season for me, for all of us. I'm grateful for the people who have joined me. I'm grateful that they're not afraid to take a stand and do what's right. And I ask that everyone in the world, I don't care where you are, this podcast, this show is listened or watched in over 70 countries. Wherever you are, you can make a difference. Open your heart, open your eyes, examine history, and then compare it to what we are experiencing right now, my friend. Because if you really, truly want to be on the right side of history, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Check your biases, check your privilege. This should be a moment that liberates the Palestinian people once and for all, if even from just this idea that they don't deserve to exist peacefully with integrity. Remove this from your heart, from your mind. We want to thank you for being with us. Stay connected. Unsugarcoated Media. We are Unsugarcoated with Aalia, but this is produced by our 501c3 media production organization. You can go to www.unsugarcoatedmedia.com and sign up for our newsletter. Be aware of other initiatives and other projects that we're doing. And you can stay connected with me directly on Instagram at Aalia_unsugarcoated. But wherever you are, make a difference, please. And thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. And more importantly, I'm hoping that I can thank you for your solidarity. Take care, and thank you for letting us be Unsugarcoated.